afternoon. So I hope everybody had a good lunch. So, again, good morning to all, to our honorable members of Congress, to the House Secretariat officials, and our partners from civil society. This dialogue with our partner CSOs is an important step to fulfilling our goal for a people's budget review. As expected, in this first budget cycle, we try to find our step, our balance to the path of a full and more effective CSO participation in the budget process and oversight. Again, this first important step marks a fundamental shift in ensuring a more participative governance in the 20th Congress. So on that note, let me call Honorable Albert S. Garcia of the 2nd District of Bataan and Senior Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations for his welcome remarks. Sir?
Maraming salamat po. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat, kay Chair Mika Swansing, kay Dr. Jun Meral. Special mention po yung ating mga colleagues, kay Kong Lisa Masa, kay palakpakan po natin siya, Kong Franz Castro, and Kong Arlene Rosas. Nice to have you here, ma'am. Sa ating accredited and soon to be accredited CSOs na magiging kapartner natin sa buong budget process, magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat. On behalf of the House Committee on Appropriations, headed by our Chair, Mika Swansing, I warmly welcome everyone to today's People Budget Review. This activity, held in partnership with our accredited and soon to be accredited civil society organizations, is a vital step in making the national budget more participatory, inclusive, and responsive to the real needs of our people. The annual budget is not just a financial document. It is, above all, a reflection of our priorities and aspirations as a nation. Through this review, we open the doors of the House of Representatives wider to the voices of our communities, ensuring that ordinary citizens have a seat at the table in shaping the 2026 National Expenditure Program. Civil society organizations have long been our partners in governance, helping us identify gaps on the ground, advocating for reforms, and ensuring that the budget addresses issues that matter most: education, healthcare, livelihood, climate resilience, and local development. By listening to you, we make our work as legislators more grounded and more accountable. As Senior Vice Chair of the Committee on Appropriations, together with our Chair Mika Swansing, we reaffirm our commitment to the budget process that is transparent, consultative, and people-centered. Let today's dialogue strengthen our shared mission of building a more equitable and prosperous Philippines where no Filipino is left behind. With that, welcome at magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, SBC Albert Garcia, for that welcome remarks. And may I call on our next speaker, of course, the main proponent of this initiative. May I call on Honorable Micaela Angela B. Swansing, Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, 1st District of Nueva Ecija, for her keynote address. Ma'am?
Hindi naman po siya keynote. It's gonna be short because I want to leave as much time, of course, to the heroes, talagang yung the superstar of today's engagement, which would be our partner CSO. So I'll keep my message brief because we want to open the floor to as much deliberations and discussions as we can this afternoon. Good morning, afternoon na pala. Good afternoon to our partners from civil society and to our esteemed colleagues in the House. I would like to give a special mention to our partners in the House, the task force for CSO engagement headed by Dr. June Meral. Thank you so much to our partners in the Secretariat for making today possible. And thank you to our partners in the civil society organizations. I know po, despite your busy schedule, we're so grateful that you're here today and we look forward to all of your valuable inputs. This gathering is a fruit of years of advocacy. I know for many of our partners here today, you have been advocating for a stronger voice in the budget process for many years. This is a milestone, and more importantly, this is a call to action. Naririnig po natin ang panawagan ng ating mga kababayan na mas maging bukas ang proseso at magkaroon sila ng mas malakas na boses sa pagbuo ng budget. In response to our people's clamor, and in support of the call of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and of Speaker Martin Romualdez towards increased transparency and public participation in the budget process, we are doing this People's Budget Review. We are forging stronger linkages among Congress, civil society, and implementing agencies to bridge gaps and improve service delivery. This will be the first of many engagements. Throughout the budget deliberations, there would be many avenues for our civil society partners to have a greater voice and provide feedback throughout the budget process. So this is the first of many po. We'll have a lot of collaborations over the next few weeks, and later on po, we can discuss a little bit more in terms of what the dynamics will be like and what those avenues for engagement will be. Many of you have been doing this work of studying the budget, especially in particular key sectors for many, many years. So we know you know this. You're experts in your respective fields. So we really look forward to hearing your thoughts and your suggestions regarding the budget for fiscal year 2026 and the succeeding budgets after that. As mentioned by SVC Abet Garcia, our commitment is firm. In this budget and in the years to come, we are bringing the Filipino back in the center of the budget process where they rightfully belong. Ang bawat piso ng budget na ito ay galing sa dugo at pawis ng mga Pilipino. Kaya magiging masusi po ang deliberasyon ng inyong kongreso sa mga dadating na buwan upang siguraduhin na ang bawat piso ay mailalaan para sa ikakabuti ng ating mga kababayan. While doubly arduous, I ask you to please join us on this journey because we are at a critical juncture. The work that we will be doing in the next months alone will be an important determining factor in safeguarding the Filipino people's faith in the budget process and in securing our country's economic future for generations to come. We need to do this for our country, and we need to do this for the Filipino people. Let's be partners in this, and we look forward to being with you in this journey. Maraming salamat po para sa Diyos at Bayan.
Thank you, Chair Mika Swansing. Before we proceed with our next program, I will be acknowledging, Ma'am Sir, of the CSOs who are in attendance today. May I request CSOs to be recognized when we call their names and their organizations.
Sir, sorry, if we may request, kasi po the first two rows are not occupied, and we would like a closer
Yes.
engagement with all of our CSOs. So siguro po hingiin lang po namin ni Kong Abet yung first
If they
two
can occupy the first
yung first two
two
chairs,
rows.
hingiin lang po namin yung
Yes.
first two chairs because what we're planning to do po ni SBC, when you're presenting, we'll give the floor to you. So bababa po kaming dalawa when it's your turn. So dyan po kami ni Kong Abet uupo. We'll give you the floor. So if we can move up lang po para mas intimate yung conversation
discussion, yung
natin.
dialogue, ma'am.
Yes.
So,
Apa, kahit one row ahead
yung
lang.
second row, ma'am, siguro. The
Yes
second
po.
row.
Or the first row of this one is okay po.
So, may I request AJ and Eunice if they can please occupy the row on the front. Yes. So let's have this environment of more open discussion in today's dialogue. So all the concerns and issues and matters that need to be discussed with regards to CSO participation will be tackled today. Okay, so let me start calling the CSOs who are in attendance today. Please be recognized when your organization is called. BTAG Media Unlimited, represented by Charmaine Mateo Gitonga and Jansen Alec Lopez. Thank you. Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids Movement for Good Governance, represented by Maxine Tanya Hamada. Ma'am, thank you. Center for Youth Advocacy and Networking, represented by Mark Daniel Alcazar and Lisel Adame. Thank you, thank you. Center for People Empowerment in Governance, or CENPEG, by Prof. Emmanuel Leco and Ms. Natalie Pulvinar. Thank you, ma'am. Citizen Watch Philippines, represented by Ruben Joseph Benji Garcia. Thank you, sir. The Council for People's Development and Governance Incorporated, or CPDG, by former Congresswoman Lisa Masa and Maria Jennifer Guste. Thank you, ma'am. Democracy Watch Philippines, represented by Lloyd Ian Zaragoza. Thank you, sir. FOI Youth Initiative, represented by Aljon Patrick Akupan. Thank you, sir. Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, represented by Andrea Joy Anas. Thank you, ma'am. Jesse Robredo Institute, DLSU, Jesse Robredo Institute of Governance, represented by Prof. Francisco Kiko Magno and Ana Margaret Benedicto. Sir, thank you, ma'am. The Makati Business Club, represented by Maricruz Victoria Sidayaw. Thank you, ma'am. Move as One Coalition, represented by Robert C. and Isabel Eugene Agregado. Thank you, sir. Multiply Ed Philippines, represented by John Lloyd L.C. Sura. Thank you. Thank you, sir. The People's Budget Coalition, Citizens Budget Tracker, represented by A.G. Montesa and Eunice Tanilon. Reed Foundation, represented by K. Flores Milanco. Thank you, ma'am. Safe Travel Philippines, represented by Engineer Eris Sanchanco. Thank you, sir. Center for Environmental Concerns by Marta Balagat. Thank you, ma'am. And of course, we would like to acknowledge the presence of former House members Arlene Rosas and Franz Castro. Thank you, ma'am. So on this note, like what Chair Mika said, we will be hearing from the CSOs of their comments, inputs, statements with regards to this initiative for a CSO budget participation. So, Ma'am Mika and Sir Abit, perhaps you can take your seats on the front row, and we'll be calling our representative CSOs for their comments.
Hello.
Opo. Siguro before we move to the presentations, I believe all the CSOs are robot. Wait, lima tayo. Hello? Ayan. Opo. Before we move po, I believe everyone has been informed that every CSO can be
Hello.
Hello? 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 Ayan. Okay. Ayun po. So I believe everyone po has been informed that every CSO will be given time to make their presentation in the front. But before we move to the presentations, we want to share with the CSOs Ayan. We want to share po with the CSOs that we really want to engage you as much as possible talaga and provide as many avenues as possible for your engagement in the budget deliberations. I believe that some of the CSOs have provided their feedback that they wanted a greater voice in terms of the budget deliberations, meaning the briefings and the hearings themselves. And syempre we have to adhere lang po and make sure we're compliant with the House rules. So the best way po that we can think of, I know that when there's an agency being deliberated on, our CSO partners have questions that they would like to field and ask the agencies that are being heard. So, yun po yung nakikita namin kasi initially we were thinking of identifying champions among congressmen because you know po as per House rules, yung pwedeng mag-interpellate would be congressmen, di ba? Representatives during the deliberation. So, what we thought of would be the best champion for the questions of our CSO partners for a particular agency would be the vice chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations in charge of sponsoring that agency's budget. So, ang gagawin po natin in partnership with the task force is that if you have questions for a particular agency, if you may provide your questions, if possible, 24 hours before the scheduled hearing of that agency, we'll collate all of the questions from our CSO partners, and the vice chair of the Committee on Appropriations assigned to sponsor the budget of that agency will be the one po to field the questions, ask the questions submitted by the CSOs directly to the secretary or the undersecretary of the agencies involved. So yun po, kasi the others have been very effective in just messaging the other Kongs na, may you please ask this on our behalf. But we want to make it more, I guess for the others na halimbawa po, they don't know how to send in their questions, we want to really open up that medium, that avenue, and to make sure that your questions are asked during the committee hearings. Kasi alam ko po that is one of the most important engagement channels, engagement channels that we can utilize. So if that's okay with everyone, okay lang po ba yon that we'll do that? Kasi we've received feedback from our CSO partners, and of course we're all doing this for the first time. So we want to adjust the process, the procedures as we go along. So this is one of the initial adjustments that we'd like to do based on the initial feedback that we've gotten from our CSO partners na you can send your questions. We'll just talk to Doc June Miral and our task force for CSOs just to have that siguro one channel, either via an email address or a cell phone number you can all where you can all send your questions. Ang request lang po namin on the part of the committee, so we also have time to process it internally, channel it to the respective vice chairperson of APRO who will handle the agency. If we may ask for the questions po, 24 hours before the scheduled committee hearing of a particular agency. So, yun po yung unang avenue na iniisip po namin. So that's really allowing for greater engagement during the committee hearings. We're also opening it up kung all throughout if during the hearing itself, meron kayong questions that would come up additionally, we'll ask lang Doc June how we can operationalize that. Kasi pag ongoing na yung hearing, medyo mas mahirap po magbato ng questions eh. But siguro what we can commit as of now is that the questions that would be sent to the task force 24 hours before the hearing will be asked by the Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations handling that particular agency. So that's the first po. The second is we've also received feedback from the task force that it would be nice if we have more huddles, maybe all throughout the weeks that we're doing the budget deliberations. So kami lang po siguro ni SVC Abet, baka mahirapan kami na pumunta doon sa huddles kasi minamanage po namin lahat ng committees all together. All the agencies all together. But what we'll do at the very minimum, if you can tell the task force which agencies you have concerns with, we will do our best to make sure that the vice chairperson in charge of that agency will be there during the huddles. So you can also raise your queries or your feedback or your comments on a particular agency in almost, hindi naman real time, but meron tayong regular engagement with our CSO partners. So we'd like to share that before we open up the floor because those are the two early adjustments that we'd like to make in terms of our engagement to ensure lang that we have greater participation and greater, like a better feedback mechanism between our CSO partners and the Committee on Appropriations and the House Task Force. So yun lang po. As a start, we'll also have a discussion later on. Several of our vice chairpersons will be joining later, around here mga 2 o'clock po. But for now po, kami lang po muna ni Kong Abet, if you're okay with us. But ano po, we're very much looking forward to hearing your presentations. And if you have other comments, please feel free to share with us later. So we'll turn over po. In terms of baka po magkaroon lang po kami ng changeover at 2 p.m. So SBC and I just need to attend to a very urgent matter that just came up. So po muna, magsasub po muna yung tatlo naming vice chairs. You're also in very capable hands po. Mga veterans po yon sa Committee on Appropriations. So we'll just do a quick changeover at 2 p.m. later. So we'll turn over the floor po for the CSOs. We'll leave the stage and we'll give the stage to our CSO partners. Thank you very much po.
Thank you, ma'am. Dito na lang sino mo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So as mentioned by Chair Mika, I think with regards to some specific questions with regards to the mechanisms, I think the guidelines or the interim guidelines recently approved may be able to clarify some of these questions, and perhaps probably during the open forum section, DSG June Miral might be able to provide more clarification on that note. But For the next part of the program, but before we proceed with the next part, let me just acknowledge our representatives from CSOs. May I please recognize Professor Emmanuel Leco from the Center of People's Empowerment in Governance, or SPeG. Sir, thank you. And of course, our friend Kairos de la Cruz from ICSC. Thank you, sir. So on this note, we will be starting the CSO's presentation statement. So for the first CSOs who I will be calling, and may also request, if possible, they go here in front, take the rostrum for their respective statements. So may I call on first former House Member Lisa Masa for her statement with regards to this dialogue. Ma'am?
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat sa Chair and Co-Chair ng Committee on Appropriations para po sa pagkakataon na ito na maihapag namin ang aming pagtingin sa budget at saka sa proseso na binuksan ng House. Ako po ay nagre-represent ng Council for People's Development and Governance, CPDG, at ito po ay isang pambansang alyansa ng mga organisasyong nagsusulong ng kaunlarang nakasentro sa mamamayan at tunay na demokratikong pamamahala. Sa loob ng maraming taon, nakapagtulungan ang CPDG sa mga komunidad at tagapagtaguyod ng mga patakaran upang matiyak na ang mga programa ng pamahalaan ay tumutugon sa pangangailangan ng mahihirap at mga sektor na madalas na naiiwan at hindi napapakinggan. Ang CPDG ay kasama rin po ng bagong tayok na network. Ito po ang bantay budget na binubuo ng mga organisasyon, institusyon, at mga eksperto na nagmo-monitor ng budget para sa 2026 at ng proseso nito. Matama po naming pinag-aralan ang proposed budget at matapos po naming suriin ang panukalang 2026 national budget, nakita namin na ang budget na ito ay walang pinag-iba substantially sa mga dati ng budget. At ito po ay hindi tumutugon sa layunin ng pag-unlad ng ating bayan. Bakit ko po sinabi ito? Alam po natin na ang pambansang budget ay hindi lamang talaan ng mga numero. Ito ang malinaw na larawan ng prioridad at direksyon ng gobyerno. As a matter of fact, we know that the appropriation bill contains a compendium of policies and priorities of the government. Ngunit sa kasalukuyang panukala, walang konkretong hakbang para maiahon ang nakararami sa kahirapan o mabawasan ang lumalalang agwat ng mayaman sa mahirap. Sa halip na pondohan ang sapat, ang mga produktong sektor gaya ng agrikultura, paggawa, at iba pang batayang industriya na kayang bumuhay sa ating ekonomiya, nananatili itong kulang sa pondo. Dahil dito, patuloy tayong nakadepende sa inaangkat na pagkain at produkto. At sa pangungutang sa dayuhan, isang kalagayang nagpapahina sa ating kakayahang tumindig bilang isang malaya at nagsasariling bansa. Hindi ko po isa-isahin ang mga nakalagay doon sa budget para isubstantiate ang claim na ito, pero isang halimbawa lamang, doon sa budget para sa agriculture at saka land reform, mas mataas pa po ang budget sa national defense at saka sa PNP. Mas mataas pa ang budget doon sa flood control, although alam natin mahalaga, pero syempre mas mahalaga ang agrikultura at ang pagkain sapagkat ito ang magsusustain sa ating predominantly rural and agricultural economy. Lalong pinapalala ng panukalang budget ang matagal at talamak ng suliranin, katiwalian, palakasan at ang patuloy na paghahari ng mga political dynasty. Sa halip na maituon sa serbisyong panlipunan at sa tunay na pangangailangan ng mga tao, madali pa ring mauwi ang pondo sa pork barrel, confidential funds, at mga proyektong nagsisilbi lang sa interes ng iilan. Mahina rin ang mga mekanismo ng pananagutan. Kaya't nauuwi sa pag-aaksaya ng pera ng bayan habang naghihirap ang taong bayan. Kaya nga po, gusto talaga naming malaman ano na ang forma ng pork barrel sa ngayon. Sapagkat sa aming pagsusuri sa budget na ito, ay nandoon pa rin po ang pork barrel. Ang isang malaki doon sa unprogrammed funds. No? At saka dito sa confidential and intelligence funds. Gusto rin naming malaman kung bukas ba ang Kongreso na busisiin ang confidential and intelligence funds ng Office of the President o muling magtatago sa parliamentary courtesy ang Kongreso. Tingin po namin panahon na para, if we are really working towards openness and transparency, busisiin natin lahat, hindi lamang po ang Office of the Vice President na nakita naman natin kung papaano ginastos at winawaldas ang pera, pero ang malaki, 4.5 billion pesos na confidential and intelligence funds, definitely much, much bigger than the funds of the Office of the Vice President, kailangan din nating mabusisi. Malinaw rin ang kakulungan ng espasyo para sa makabuluhang partisipasyon ng mamamayan sa proseso ng pagbubuo ng budget. Pero bago ko po palawigin yan, dahil bagamat kami ay natutuwa na may ganitong proseso ngayon, pero alam natin ang pagbubuo ng budget nagsimula pa doon sa baba, no? Doon sa mga barangay, doon sa mga lungsod, munisipyo, etc. Pero sa ngayon pa lang kami kumbaga pumapasok, no? At hindi pa namin alam kung ano talaga ang proseso, no? And we are very much watching this process. Anyway, before I proceed with that, gusto ko rin lamang isingit dahil napaka-importante po nito sa amin. Gusto kong bigyang pansin ang pagtataas ng alokasyon sa NTF-LCAC, ang nangungunang mekanismo ng gobyerno para atakihin ang mga CSOs. Siraan kami. Nagiging biktima ng kanilang red tagging at terror tagging ang aming mga miyembro, staff at leaders. At hanggat po merong ganito at lalo pang sinusuhayan ng Kongreso ang NTF-LCAC, ay nababaliwala ang ating layunin para sa transparency and openness. Okay, so to continue with the CSO process, sa tingin po namin, dahil nga ngayon pa lamang kinoconstruct ang proseso na ito, ay kaagad nagkaroon na ng limitasyon ang pagkakataon ng mga komunidad at organisasyong sibil na maipahayag ang kanilang panawagan at madalas napapako sa huwad na konsultasyon. I know this for a fact kasi I was in Congress and also I'm a part of the cabinet. At sana ay hindi na maging ganito, no? Wish ko lang yan. Pero nauwi sa ganyang proseso. And I think the CSOs here should have the strength to stop this process, no? Na nagiging parang huwad na konsultasyon, di ba? Dapat maging totoo ang mga konsultasyon. Ang isang tunay na demokratikong budget ay yung bukas sa pagsusuri, pakikialam at anbag ng mamamayan sa paggamit ng pondo ng bayan. Kung wala nito, nananatiling eksklusibo at hindi patas ang proseso. Binibigyan diin ng CPDG na ang kaunlaran ay dapat nakaugat sa pangangailangan ng mamamayan, hindi sa makitid na interes ng politika at negosyo. Dapat unahin sa pambansang budget ang mga serbisyong panlipunan, pagpapatatag ng agrikultura, at pagpapaunlad ng lokal na industriya. Hindi ang mga proyektong pakikinabangan lamang ang iilang makapangyarihan. Nananawagan kami sa mga mambabatas na itutok ang budget sa mga mahihirap, palakasin ang sariling kakayahan ng bansa na lumikha ng kabuhayan at bawasan ang labis na pagkandili sa dayuhan. Sa ganitong paraan lamang magiging tunay na kasangkapan ang budget para sa pagbubuo ng makatarungan, pantay at demokratikong kinabukasan para sa sambayan ng Pilipino. Marami pong salamat at magandang hapon muli sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Ma'am Lisa Masa. And following that standard, for our next speakers, we would like to request, since there are a number of presenters who will be taking their turns, if we can limit our statements at 3 to 5 minutes for time management and for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. For our next presenter, speaker, may I call on Professor Francisco Kiko Magno of the Jesse Robredo Institute, De La Salle University.
Thank you, Novel. Before I begin, let me thank the Honorable Mika Swansing, Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, Honorable Albert Garcia, Vice Chair of the committee, fellow civil society stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I am with Anne-Margaret Benedicto, who's our program associate. I'm honored to speak today on behalf of the De La Salle University, DLSU-JRI Robredo Institute of Governance, as well as like-minded research and policy think tanks that form a critical part of our country's knowledge and innovation ecosystem. As Congress deliberates on the General Appropriations Bill, we respectfully urge you to consider one essential but often underfunded dimension of governance, the systematic monitoring and evaluation of public programs through evidence-based research. First, we recommend that resources be allocated to the Commission on Higher Education to support universities in conducting independent monitoring and evaluation studies of government programs. Our research universities have the technical expertise, academic independence, and nationwide reach to generate credible insights on whether programs deliver on their promises and how they can be improved. Investing in this capacity ensures that our budgets do not simply fund activities, but that they truly deliver results for our citizens. Second, we propose that funds be earmarked for the Department of Science and Technology to support research on Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, SDG-related challenges. Issues such as climate resilience, public health, education equity, food security, and digital inclusion require robust, evidence-based solutions. By empowering research universities to study these pressing challenges, government gains access to innovations and policy recommendations that can guide smarter, future-proof investments. Third, monitoring should not be left to experts alone. Community-based monitoring and citizen participatory audit programs must complement open government initiatives. When paired with open data performance dashboards, these approaches allow citizens themselves to track project milestones, demand accountability, and ensure that public funds are not only disbursed but spent well. In short, we envision a governance ecosystem where public investment is continuously scrutinized, assessed, and improved through the combined efforts of universities, communities, and government. This is the kind of budget process that can build public trust, strengthen accountability, and deliver real impact. Honorable members of Congress, allocating resources to these areas is not an added expense. Rather, it is an investment in good governance. It ensures that every peso in the national budget generates the maximum possible benefit for our people. Thank you, and we look forward to working with Congress in advancing a more accountable, transparent, and data-driven public sector.
Thank you, Prof. Kiko, for keeping in line with our presentation, the length of our presentation. So before we proceed with the next presenter speaker, let me just acknowledge also our CSOs who just came in. May I please recognize representative from Damper PTDA, Ms. Claudine Diana Bautista Lim. Can you please stand up to be recognized in the room? Okay. Our next is the Center for Environmental Concerns Philippines, represented by Ms. Marta Balagat, the Deputy Executive Director. Thank you, ma'am. And lastly, from Makabayan, represented by Ariel Casilao from EXCOM. Thank you, sir. So for our next presenter speaker, may I call on Prof. Emmanuel Leco of the Center for People Empowerment in Governance, SPeG. Sir?
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Well, first, thank you for the invitation extended to our group, the Center for People Empowerment in Governance. We hope that this is just a start. We are gathered here today at a pivotal moment as Congress deliberates on the proposed 6.793 trillion national budget. And let me stress this point. 6.7 or 6.8 trillion is about 22% of our GDP. Our budget has a strong potential to affect development in the country, or it could be at the end of the fiscal year, we could say, CYAN. And we've been saying that throughout a number of years that we have been following the budget. Our country today needs more than a kick to jumpstart our economy. We say, from the Center for People Empowerment in Governance, that budget priorities must shift to people's welfare. While the Department of Public Works and Highways remains sizable, its heavy emphasis overshadowing critical social services, education, for example, while the National Expenditure Program has allocated 928 billion, a measly 25.4 billion, near 2.74%, is allocated for addressing school buildings that we are experiencing today. We hear shortages to the tune of like 200,000 classrooms. And we cannot see that the proposed budget will leave a dent in addressing this classroom shortage. And what we are going to expect? Children coming to school very early in the morning, starting something like 5:30 in the morning, and students in the grade school, high school, going up to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock, just to make sure that the classroom utilization is filled to the max. Actually, it's super max. So what does that do to our learners? They are left with little time for studies. Social welfare and health services also lack sufficient attention. Meanwhile, we still see confidential and intelligence funds continues to raise questions on transparency and accountability. On the debt front, coming from the finance sector, we express concern that the national debt is projected to reach 19 trillion pesos, with debt servicing alone consuming approximately 14.4% of the total appropriations. A trend demanding immediate policy action. Wala naman pong masamang mangutang kung ang ating inuutang ay mapupunta sa mga produktibong paraan. At nakikita natin na may kakayahan naman tayo na magbayad. Pero sa nakikita po natin, ang National Expenditure Program is just like borrowing from one credit card to pay for another credit card. That is bad news to financial management. We also want to raise the call to strengthen oversight through a people's audit. Hindi naman po ito para palitan ang COA, kundi palakasin ang pagmamatyag ng taong bayan sa ating pong pondo. Hindi naman po ito yung technical audit na sinasabi na para bang transaction per transaction. Pero katulad po nung nakikita ngayon ng publiko, meron pong budget at inaprubahan ng implementing agency, approved, implemented at nabayaran. Ngayon po nakikita ng ating presidente ang inilatag nila na pagpatigil ng baha, napupulbos. Pagka binuhat, pwede mo pong ikalat na parang pulbos. Hindi po ganyan ang audit na nakikita natin. Ang kailangan po, unang-una makita natin throughout the country, yung mga budget natin na inilagay para po halimbawa sa infrastructure project, meron po bang totoong proyekto? At kung merong totoong proyekto, gaano ba katibay, gaano ba katotoo, at gaano ba ka-relevant itong mga projects na ito? People's audit is not like the COA audit. It will be technical as well as substantive. At nais po namin sabihin na hindi lamang po ito gagawin ng People's Audit, kundi gagawin lang po ito ng mga mamamayan para makipagtulungan sa mga ahensya na dapat ay nakakakita nito. Pwede ba naman na ang mga proyektong ito ay lumusot na merong COA clearances, merong implementing agency clearances na hindi nila nakita? People's Audit will make sure that these issues are raised. We also, while we welcome this people's organization engagement, we want to make sure that this will be institutionalized and this will facilitate a meaningful participation of people's organization and civil society. Totoo po, hindi naman po kami pwedeng bumoto, pero sa pamamagitan po ng people's organizations ay maririnig ang tinig ng mga mamamayan sa mga komunidad at pakinggan po ng ating pong mga kinatawan. Sana po magkaroon ng mga platforms na ang people's organization, civil society ay magkaroon ng plataforma na pwede po nilang ihayag. Maaring hindi po sa hearing, maaring hindi po sa mismong meeting ng Kongreso, pero po magpahayag po, tulungan ng ating pong House na makapagpahayag ang ating pong mga mamamayan. Sa ngayon po, ay nandito na tayo, may deliberation doon sa budget na naihanda na. Siguro po, looking forward, gusto nating makita, at ito po ay hamon sa ating pong pamahalaan, when national call for budget, no, magkaroon din po ng call to the people's budget para hindi po tayo yung laging naghahabol. Natutupad ba? Tama ba ito o hindi? Siguro po makita natin na sa umpisa pa lang ang mga programa ng pamahalaan na pupondohan ng ating salapi ay naaangkop sa mga pangangailangan ng ating mga mamamayan. Para po masiguro na ang ating pondo ay makatulong sa pagpapaunlad ng ating kabuhayan, we want to make sure that the national budget will stimulate people's economic development. Ano po ang ibig sabihin niyan? Kailangan po maging produktibo, makatulong po sa production. Kung sinasabi po natin, kailangan ang mga mamamayan ay mayroong pagkain sa kanilang harapan, kailangan po tulungan natin ang ating mga magsasaka na makapagtanim at makapag-ani ng kanila pong mga itinanim na makakarating sa hapag-kainan ng ating pong mga mamamayan. In closing, let us remember, the budget is not merely a spreadsheet. Kung ito ay spreadsheet lang, mag-AI na tayo. Mas maganda pa po siguro ang AI na mag-produce ng ating pong budget. People's engagement is not just about transparency, it's about trust. We should shield the budget from corruption. Nakita na po natin, trilyones na pala ang mukhang nalaglag sa ating pondo. By ensuring people's welfare, deepening civil society participation, and ensuring accountability through mechanisms like the People's Audit, we can reshape the 2026 budget into a document of hope, empowerment, and inclusive development. Magandang hapon po at maraming salamat.
Thank you, Professor Leiko. May I just again acknowledge the presence of our CSOs from the Philippine Legislators Committee on Population and Development, represented by Executive Director Aurora Kilala and Angelica P. Ramirez. Thank you, ma'am. For our next resource person to deliver their 3 to 5 minute statement, may I call on representative of the Center for Youth Advocacy and Networking, Mr. Mark Daniel Alcazar.
Ayan, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, no? And magandang araw din po, lalong-lalo na sa mga kinatawan ng ating ginagalang na Committee on Appropriations. Kami po ay mula sa Center for Youth Advocacy and Networking, isang youth-led and youth-serving organization. At ako po, personally, ay kinatawan din ng National Anti-Poverty Commission, Youth and Student Sector. So, para sa 2026, ang panukalang budget po natin ay umaabot ng 6.79 trillion pesos. And prior this meeting po, tinignan na po natin, no, bilang nanggagaling sa sektor ng kabataan, yung mga ahensyang nakikita natin na may role sa pagsasakapangyarihan ng aming hanay. Quickly, tinignan natin ang budget ng DepEd, SHED, mga SUCs, TESDA, NYC, and even DOH. At sa unang tingin, mukha pong malaki ang pondo, pero kung susuriin po ay kaunti na lang talaga ang natitira para sa mga marginalized youth and students natin. Walang malinaw o malaking pondo para sa learning recovery, pag-address sa learning poverty natin, digital infrastructure, at mga school health programs. Yung budget pa nga lang po ng DepEd. Nakita natin na yung inclusive education programs has gone down. Special needs education dropped from 1 billion to 850 million pesos ngayong 2026, limiting resources for students with disabilities who already face barriers in accessing quality education. Yung IPED po natin ay nangalahati mula 154 million pesos, 75 million pesos na lamang po for 2026. Reducing support for culturally responsive teaching for indigenous communities. And yung Madrasa Ed po natin, which supports Muslim learners, was also slightly reduced from 498 million pesos to 496 million. Beyond these programs, basic education inputs that directly shape classroom learnings also suffered major reductions. Imagine po, from 12 billion pesos, naging 11 billion pesos na lang yung allocation natin for textbooks and instructional materials. Means fewer and outdated learning resources for millions of students na again, huling-huli na rin po pagdating sa mga learning outcomes. Learning tools and equipment decreased from 3.5 billion pesos to 2.9 billion pesos na lamang. The basic education curriculum was also cut by 132 million pesos, while physical fitness and school sports suffered a 256 million reduction. Ilan lamang po ito at nakikita natin na mas palalalimin pa po namin ito. Palalalimin pa ito ng iba pang mga kasama na may advocacy din on education. Sa DOH, wala rin pong malinaw at sapat na earmark para sa mental health at adolescent health programs. At ang NYC naman, sa gitna ng recognition natin na kulang ang trainings ng ating mga SKs at LYDCs, at ang komisyon sana na nagpapalakas ng youth participation ay nangalahati po ang budget. Mula 600 million plus, noong 2025 ay naging 315 million pesos na lamang po for 2026. Malaki yung kabuuang budget pero mukhang kulang po sa direksyon. And Ms. Chair, kinikilala natin na ang budget ay hindi lamang po technical na dokumento. Ito ang moral compass ng ating pamahalaan. At kung tatanungin po ang mga kabataan na dumaranas ng learning crisis, digital divide, climate anxiety, mental health struggles at patuloy na pabatang pagbubuntis, ang sagot po namin, hindi namin po nararanasan at nararamdaman itong mga pondong ito. Kung future-ready generation ang ating layunin, dapat future-ready rin yung ating budget at lalo na ang ating proseso. We want to re-echo rin po yung punto ng aming partner organization na GWatch na kailangan natin ng ecosystem of accountability. Participation must go beyond consultation at sana isama din ang mga kabataan sa co-creation. Nakikita po namin ang papel ng mga gaya ng CYAN at iba pang CSOs na kaya naming magbigay ng grounded evidences. Dala namin ang datos mula sa mga communities na ine-engage natin. We also want to assert yung independent oversight at pagbabantay laban sa leakage, underspending at misallocation. At in return, kayang-kaya din po naming magbahagi ng mga innovative models. Sa kasalukuyan po yung aming organisasyon ay sinusubukan na yung mga youth-led monitoring at pagpasok sa mga existing mechanism para siguraduhin na participatory talaga yung budgeting hanggang sa local level. At marami pang iba. Kaya nakikita natin na mahalagang bukas ang mga critical processes and information ay dapat timely din pong naibabahagi sa amin. Dahil kung kulang o huli ang datos, wala pong tunay na pananagutan. At dapat pati po ang mga mahalagang dokumento na matagal na rin po naming inihihingi. Sana magkaroon din po ng access yung mga CSOs na gaya namin, kagaya po ng allocation list. Ambag din po namin yung multi-level engagement. So hindi lang po tayo nag-engage sa Kongreso, pero hanggang sa barangay level, ultimo pag-engage din sa mga SK Council. So sana we encourage din the Congress na i-strengthen din yung multi-level engagement ng mga CSOs na gaya namin na nag-engage din on the local level. At huli, panawagan din natin na gawing enabling yung participation without assimilating or co-opting yung mga CSOs na hindi kontrolado yung aming independensya. Again, hindi po benepisyaryo lamang yung mga kabataan. Kami ay tagapagbantay, innovators at katuwang nyo po sa governance. At lalong-lalo na, kagaya ng pagdidescribe sa atin ng ating konstitusyon, kami po ay agents of change. And with respect po, again, inihiling namin, tignan muli yung mga allocations. Pondohan ang learning recovery, digital skills, adolescent health at support para sa mga out-of-school youth, mga climate vulnerable youth, IP youth, Muslim youth, at iba pang mga marginalized na kabataan. At institutionalize ang mga CSO, pati na rin po yung mga youth-led CSOs na gaya namin. Mula planning hanggang evaluation. At hindi tuwing hearings at hindi lang position paper po sana. Papasukin niyo po kami at buksan na rin sana ang espasyo para sa CSO hanggang BICAM. And again, naniniwala po kami na ang demokrasya hindi totoo kung palamuti lang po kaming mga CSOs. Ito pong malaking budget natin na 6.79 trillion pesos must not only sustain bureaucracy but secure the future of the youth. So again, gusto po sana naming i-reiterate ay hindi lang po kami dito nagkukwenta ng bawat piso. Naniniwala tayo na ethical at political na desisyon ng mga namumuno at nakaupo yung nakasaalang-alang po sa ating budget. So, it tells our young people as well. Kami ba ay pinipili o isinasantabi? At yan po din siguro yung gusto naming iwan sa inyo. Please include young people sa pag-consider sa ating budget.
Isang minuto lang po. Mark po from Center of Youth Advocacy and Networking. Bilang highlight na lang po ng aking idadagdag sa posisyon po na binigay ni Ate Leno, 2.7 trillion pesos po ang kailangang utangin para sa 2026 budget. Pero hanggang ngayon, maraming malalaking tao ang hindi tapat sa pagbabayad ng kanilang buwis. Mga tiwali na hanggang ngayon ay patuloy na may presensya at transaksyon sa pamahalaan. Panagutin ang mga kailangang singilin, pagtibayin ng partisipasyon ng civil society, tigilan na ang korupsyon, pagnanakaw, SOP, kolusyon at kickback mula sa barangay hanggang sa nasyonal. Huli, kami po ay naninindigan. Dapat magkaroon ng makabuluhang pakikilahok ang mga CSO mula sa legislation hanggang sa execution at hanggang sa accountability. Dahil ang budget ng bayan ay hindi lang para sa kasalukuyan, ito ay investment para sa aming mga kabataan na siyang aanihin namin sa susunod na panahon. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we proceed, may I just acknowledge the presence of Congressman Jude Asidre of Tingog Party List, also the chairperson of higher education. In fact, Kong Jude, if you may, for your message. Yes, sir.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Pasensya na po na late kasi tumagal po yung Board of Regents meeting sa UP. Of course, my respects to our very active, very competent, very beautiful Chairperson of the House Committee on Appropriations, Chairman Mika Swansing, to the very able Senior Vice Chair, Congressman Abed Garcia. I'd like to make mention lang of our former colleagues, our favorite friends from the minority, Congressman Arlene Brosas and Congresswoman Franz Castro, sa lahat po sa inyong lahat na representatives ng civil society na nandito ngayon sa muli magandang hapon po. Siguro may tatanong nyo, hindi naman ako member ng Appropriations Committee, bakit ako kailangan magsalita? Pero kasi tayo po yung isa po sa co-author ng House Resolution number 94. And that resolution is a statement of our strong belief that the national budget is not merely a financial document. Hindi lang ho spreadsheet ang ating budget. It's a moral and political statement. It's the clearest reflection of our national priorities and the values we choose to uphold. We all agree here. I think every one of us here agree that this is the people's budget. This is not the House budget. This is not the government's budget. This is the people's budget. And therefore, the process of arriving at our national budget must be transparent, participatory, and accountable. That is why, on behalf of the authors of Resolution number 94, we want to let you know that your presence, our CSO and NGO representatives, your presence and participation here matters. I know that most of you, or if not all of you, are advocates, watchdogs, community leaders, and I regard all of you as partners for progress. So we'd like to thank you for lending your voice, lending your insights, and your vigilance to this process. We in government, especially the House of Representatives, are entrusted with the power of the purse. But make no mistake, we also understand with that power comes deep and serious responsibility. They always say leadership is a stewardship. And we are accountable not for just how we allocate resources, but also for how those resources that we allocate translate into real tangible change in the lives of our people. So you may probably have questions, how we were able to arrive at this process, and was mentioned by Attorney Abante in previous briefings. We can only do so much with the limited time that we have But of course, we're looking forward to an even sustained, with the permission of our chair, to an even sustained engagement even after the budget is approved. Diba? So we can also monitor how the executive actually utilizes the funds that are made available to them. And that is why, if you notice, the core of observers that we have, they come from different backgrounds because we believe that budget reform requires more than technical expertise. It requires political will and broad public engagement. It requires, in a nutshell, all hands on deck. Government, civil society, and the communities we serve must work together to ensure that every peso in the national budget is used with integrity, urgency, and impact. And on behalf of the other authors of the resolution and the movers behind opening the process to CSO participation, I'm sure you would want na makapagtanong kayo during the hearings, but given they can. But also consider us the authors of the resolution that includes me, Kong Yeda, Andrew, and the speaker. If you have questions, I will ask them to ask your questions for you. So if you have concerns, please feel free to ask, to send your questions to us, your concerns, so we can also discuss it. I'm sure the chairperson of appropriations would be very willing to afford our representation with the time to propound questions to our resource person. But of course, this budget reform would not be possible without the leadership of our Committee on Appropriations under the capable and principled leadership of Chairperson Mika Swansing, and for opening more spaces to citizen participation, and for leading our budget deliberations with transparency and heart. I'd like to make special mention also to DSD Jun Miral for being very open to this process given the limited time and facility that we have. I hope that our conversation starting today will be open, constructive, and courageous, and together let us craft a national budget that truly serves the people, not just in word but in deed. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you, Kong Jude, for that message. I think it's high time that the resource person, the representative of Safe Travel Philippines, who was also the first one to come in this morning, Engineer Eris San Siago, the Executive Director of Safe Travel Philippines.
Magandang tanghali po sa lahat. Maraming salamat po sa imbitasyon. 3 minutes. So, sa mga ano po natin, kasama natin sa Congress po, marami po salamat sa imbitasyon. Sa napaka-importante pong gawain po natin dito na para mabalangkas yung responsive and transparent budget. I'm Erison Shango from Safe Travel PH. We are a research and development organization based in UP and CPAG, College for Public Administration and Governance. So we focus on public transport, doing data-driven research and developing open data tools to help different actors of hot topic natin, modernization. We engage with LGUs, co-ops, drivers, and commuters. Siguro ipepresent ko lang din to share, kasi bilang researchers, madalas kami parang bearer or bad news. No? So medyo pagpasensya nyo na yung mga bad news na i-share ko ngayon. So since we started closely looking at yung PUVMP natin, modernization program in 2021, we have seen, unfortunately, very little improvements in the system. Siguro, personal assessment ko na lang po, even with the modernization program, our road-based public transport system is dying. Not yet dead, not yet, pero trying to survive and in need of parang may resuscitation, no? Or interventions. So siguro to better describe that, 3 things, no? Number 1, the main actors of this modernization, our cooperatives, no, are struggling financially. whether new or veteran multipurpose cooperatives with many reported delayed payments and defaults, or now up to restructuring na sila on their loans to modernize their fleet. May mga labor disputes here and there. Every year, meron po tayong mga hearings sa Kongreso, sa Senate, pero for them, whether pro or anti-modernization, real help has yet to come or arrive. Number two, commuters still spend long times waiting for their rides. And then they commute and lost many hours every day. Our data shows that in major cities, Manila man or outside Metro Manila, the average speed of our PUVs, jeepneys or buses is around, any guess, average speed, turnaround time, 9 to 14 kilometers per hour. 9 to 14, no, average speed. Even slower than the popular, yung laging nare-report, no, na TomTom traffic index, which is around 18 kilometers per hour. And that's for private cars. So, ang conclusion doon, mas mabilis pa rin ang private cars, no, in general. Maybe exemption yung EDSA busway natin. Number three, our wicked problem on traffic congestion and its economic and social impacts mainly stems from this, a dying road public transport system. Quick survey, kasi research, no? Sino po nag-commute dito papunta sa Congress? Mahirap mag-commute. Ayan, 1, 2. So, I guess like me, we chose more comfortable or safer or faster modes like private car or Grab, or baka may nagbike pa dito, no? Baka mas mabilis pa. So, our public transport is losing demand, and customers, di ba? Like us, customer tayo ng public transport, pero nababawasan yung demand and customers ng ating mga kasama sa public transport. Further contributing to traffic congestion when we chose other private modes. Lastly, our friends and collaborators from the executive departments are also struggling. Every year, their proposed budget for public transport outside railways, specific to PUVMP, gets slashed outrightly. No? Parang copy-paste na dito yung DBM, no, sa NEP nila, kung mapapansin nyo po, no, yung budget levels nila. And that's the elephant in the room, relevant to our purpose for today. We ask the industry and government actors with huge responsibility to modernize, but with very little funding. And everyone is suffering every day. Comparable to other social infrastructure programs, public transport is an essential and critical lifeline, especially for low-income households. Sila ang hindi nakakapag-down payment sa mga mumurahing sasakyan. No? Comparing din, no, meron tayong agriculture and AFP modernization program that gets considerable constant funding annually. But our public transport modernization program gets about the same budget as yung budget ng DPWH to fix the potholes, yung mga minor repairs ng DPWH. So question is, are potholes on our roads regularly fixed? No. Are our public transport regular and reliable? Also no, no? So ano po yung real answer? Nasa budget po talaga. And then, ayun po sir, thank you po sa time. I guess yung final message is we need to fund a public transport that's for the people and from the people's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Aris, for trying to discuss the problems of transportation in the country. So our next speaker also will be discussing and presenting more specific sectoral concerns. So let me call on Kairos de la Cruz of the ICSC to discuss and present issues regarding climate change.
Thank you, Congresswoman Mika Swansing, Congressman Garcia, Congressman Asidre, friends from CPBRD. Maraming salamat po. I always take pride in going back here in Congress, where I started my career as part of the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities 14 years ago, when I pushed for the People's Survival Fund to become a law. ICSC is a policy group advancing climate finance access and transparency, clean energy, and local adaptation. We partner with governments, including the Philippine government, communities, fellow civil society groups, scientists, and policymakers to push for climate resilient and low carbon development in the Philippines and internationally. We also serve as the Environment and Climate NGO Sector Representative of the Philippine Open Government Partnership, which is led by the Department of Budget and Management, which commits to transparent, participatory, and accountable governance. Fiscal openness and climate and environment are two key policy areas of our open government agenda. Civil society engagement in all stages of the budget cycle, planning, legislation, implementation, and oversight, strengthens transparency, accountability, and inclusiveness. This ensures that the budget reflects not only evidence-based technical priorities, but also the community's realities and needs. This is where climate finance accountability and our very own climate change expenditure tagging, or CSET, would be critical. The CSET particularly ensures that the public budget is aligned with our climate commitments as envisioned in our National Adaptation Plan and nationally determined contributions, which prioritizes, for example, food security, water sufficiency, ecological stability, human security, climate-smart industries and services, sustainable energy, and knowledge and capacity development. Strengthening and revisiting the climate tagging process in budget planning is necessary to improve how we track, manage, and report expenditures critical to both climate change adaptation and mitigation. This provides legislators and the public with a clear view of how much the budget addresses climate risks, enabling the right to information and accountability for resources to reach those most at risk. We should work to ensure that we go beyond numbers, we go beyond the tagging, and we should start looking for actual impacts. People's organizations and civil society must work with government agencies in identifying the gaps in the CSET and budget typologies, ensuring that climate finance is effectively utilized and is actually contributing to achieving the country's climate goals. Esteemed representatives, the national budget is more than an accounting of pesos. It is a climate action. It's an action plan in motion. We look forward to the continuous collaboration of the House of Representatives and civil societies. By deepening civil society engagement and strengthening climate finance accountability, we can advance fiscal openness and make every peso count for the communities. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Kai. Our next presenter will also be discussing more on the sectoral issues, and this time more on the issues on education. So may I call on the representative of Multiply Ed Philippines, Mr. John Lloyd Elsusura.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Una sa lahat, maraming salamat po sa ating chairperson, Mika Swansing, at kay Kong Albert Garcia, vice chairperson ng Committee on Appropriations, at sa mga kapwa ko kasamahan sa CSOs na naririto ngayon, participation at accountability sa edukasyon. Naninindigan kami sa Multiply Ed Philippines na hindi sapat na maging tagapamasid lamang sa proseso ng budget. Ang participation in the budget process ay hindi lamang nahihinto sa pagiging informed. Ito ang pagbibigay ng tunay na boses sa mga desisyon na nakakaapekto sa edukasyon. Sa teknikal na usapin ng budget, napakahirap po talagang makipag-engage ang kabataan na kagaya ko. At kung ang pinag-uusapan ay budget para sa edukasyon, hindi ba mas mahalaga ang input ng mismong mga estudyante? Kaya, kailangan ng mas malinaw at madaling paraan para mas marinig pa ang aming mga boses. Hindi dapat maging dekorasyon lamang o lip service ang partisipasyon ng kabataan at CSOs. Dapat may espasyo po kami para makapagbigay ng input at mapakinggan sa pagbuo ng budget, lalo na sa harap ng lumalalang krisis sa edukasyon. That's why today, I stand with Multiply Ed Philippines Amplify Education Budget Campaign, calling on our government to put learners first and reclaim wasted funds for education. Right now, our education faces a severe shortage of classrooms, teachers, textbooks, and digital tools. Yet, bilyong-bilyong piso po ang nakalaan sa oversized flood control projects, sa confidential and intelligence funds, and in allocations that deliver little to no benefit for our education. Every unfinished classroom is a student left standing. Every cut to SPED, iPad, ALS, and madrasa is a child excluded. Every peso locked in confidential and intelligence funds is a peso stolen from the Filipino learner. That is why we call for 3 urgent actions. First, restore, increase, and protect education funds. The billion peso decrease in budget in textbooks and instructional materials must be reversed. Our learners cannot keep using outdated or insufficient resources. Second, prioritize inclusive programs. Special education, indigenous people's education, alternative learning system, and madrasa programs exceeded their targets and reached hundreds of thousands more learners than expected. Yet, they are decreasing their budgets now, punishing success, and denies marginalized learners the education they deserve. Third, reallocate wasteful funds to urgent education needs. Ang 4.56 bilyong confidential fund ng Office of the President ay pwede po sanang makapagtatayo ng 2,280 na mga classrooms, lalo na sa ating mga indigenous at geographically isolated communities kung saan pinakamalubha ang kakulangan. At mula sa 250 bilyong pisong inalaan sa flood control projects, kahit maliit lamang na bahagi nito ay pwedeng punan na ang kakulangan sa hiring ng mga guro, sa aklat at pasilidad ng paaralan. Naniniwala kami that the learning crisis is not tomorrow's problem. It is happening today. And students are already falling behind. Teachers are already overworked and communities are already suffering. The choice is clear. Classrooms or corruption, learners or political pork. Kaya nananawagan kami sa Kongreso at Hekutibo na kumilos ng may agarang aksyon at tapang. Dagdagan ng budget sa edukasyon, ibalik ang mga nabawas, ilaan muli ang mga nasayang na pondo at mag-invest kung saan pinakamahalaga sa ating mga bata, sa ating mga estudyante at sa kinabukasan ng ating bansa. At kami sa Multiply Ed Philippines at Amplify Coalition, madiin po naming sinisigaw. EDUC budget para sa bagets, bawiin sa corrupt na projects. Let's fix the gaps, fund the margins, and push for an inclusive education budget. Maraming salamat po at magandang araw po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you. Thank you, John Lloyd. So we're down to our few speakers. So let me now call on the representative of the FOI Youth Initiative, Mr. Aljon Patrick Akupan. Is he here? Okay.
Magandang hapon po. Ako po si Patrick Akupan, kinatawan po ng FOI Youth Initiative. Kami po ay isang grupo ng mga advocates for freedom of information. So mamaya po habang tayo po ay nagbibigay po ng ating statement, sabihin po natin kung bakit po tayo nandito. So unang-una po, magandang hapon po sa lahat, lalong-lalo na po sa ating Honorable Chairperson and Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations, Kong Mika Swansing, Kong Albert Garcia, and of course our voice in the CSO participation, Kong Judas Hidre. Maraming salamat po for opening the space for all of us CSOs to say why this is important for all of us. And of course, to all our fellow representatives of civil society organizations, thank you for holding the line. And this is a reminder why we should have multiple eyes in looking at the budget and reiterate why this is important for all of us. We all have a role in shaping meaningful and sustained civil society engagement in the budget process. Myself, as an advocate of freedom of information, or FOI, we are here to make a case for trust, transparency, and accountability. These are core values of a functioning democracy. But let's be honest, these values cannot take root unless our institutions are truly open to scrutiny and unless government commits to accessible, truthful governance. Now, let me acknowledge at this point the efforts of the House of Representatives and the Department of Budget Management to engage CSOs. These steps matter, but also let's be clear, participation without transparency is incomplete. At the national level, the public is often excluded from agency budget deliberations. And right now, our own budget documents lack on this aspect. The National Expenditure Program still lacks machine-readable formats and the necessary metadata that would allow deeper analysis of the budget down to the sectors and geographic areas. Without these, ordinary citizens like myself, researchers, and even CSOs cannot easily track whether allocations match actual needs on the ground. At the local level, where I've had the privilege of serving, CSOs need more than token invitations. We need clear roles, backed by data, and supported by the tools that enable our participation in these conversations. And so here is our point. Participation without transparency is hollow. It is half-baked and bound to fail. Transparency must be operational, not aspirational. It must live in the day-to-day work of governance. It's what turns FOI from an imagination into a reality that we can all feel. It has been nearly 4 decades since the first FOI bill has been first filed here in the House of Representatives in 1988. Isn't it time that we reopen these conversations, a long overdue conversation that we as civil society organizations deserve? Because citizens today are asking one simple, and I feel this is a powerful question: where's the money really going? And the hard truth for all of us, the world is also asking us the same question. Just this year, the Philippines scored 33 out of 100 in the Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, ranking 114th out of 180 countries. That's the same score as last year, showing no progress at all. And we're falling behind our Southeast Asian neighbors who are moving faster towards its effort to institutionalize transparency. So what does this tell us all? That our institutions are not yet there. We are not yet doing enough to induct the trust. And I feel like this is something very important because like in all relationships, whether your family or your significant other, trust is a strong foundation of a strong relationship. And I believe that if we are transparent and we are open, then we can improve trust on that aspect. And that the public still sees government as accountable and opaque. So on my last point, let me share what we often see. That the budgets are hidden behind complexity. It is full of jargon, vague items, inaccessible formats, and ordinary citizens are locked out of the process. Accountability is still weak at this point. Every peso in the budget should serve the public good. And when it doesn't, we must be able to trace it. FOI, hopefully, would make this possible. And while we talk about growth, we underestimate the real cost of an uninformed citizenry. Without access to information, democracy becomes hollow. If you want a just budget, we must build a people-first budget, one that reflects real needs built on open data, clear processes, and inclusive policymaking. Let's open the budget to the people. Thank you.
Thank you all, John. Again, for time management, we are down to our last two presenters. We will have more time in the open forum section. And so at this point, let me call on the representative of WISOG Foundation, Eunice Tanilon, if you're still there. Sorry. And also AJ Montesa from the People's Budget Coalition.
Ayan. Magandang hapon po. Good afternoon to the Honorable Chair Mika Swansing, to Honorable Senior Vice Chair Congressman Abed Garcia, and of course to Honorable Representative Jude Asidre. Also to the former members of Congress who are here today. We'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of the CPBRD and Director June Miral, and also our fellow friends dito mula sa civil society na nag-effort po na makialam po sa budget. No? So, papakilala lang po kami, the People's Budget Coalition is an alliance of more than 40 civil society organizations. So kasama ko po si Eunice. we're pushing for a more equitable and inclusive government budget. So every year, the budget tells a story. It shows us what the government values. It shows us whose needs are prioritized and how our taxpayers' money is actually spent. For too long, ordinary citizens have not been included in the decisions because of technical, political, or process barriers. So the PBC, or the People's Budget Coalition, hopes to break down these barriers and ensure that people's voices are not only heard, but meaningfully considered. Our coalition is ready to collaborate with Congress and government agencies to build a budget that truly reflects the needs of the people. We are ready and eager to provide and engage with completed staff work. This includes prepared detailed analysis, proposing alternatives, and even drafting interpellation questions so that our engagements with you are not ceremonial. So we did an initial analysis of the National Expenditure Program, at least a macro level. Eunice can share some of our key points on them.
Thanks, AJ. Hi, everybody. We wanted to share 4 key points from our macro analysis on the 2026 national budget. So first and foremost, shrinking fiscal space for people's needs. The allocable share of the budget has fallen to its lowest in a decade. In 2026, for every 100 pesos, only 38 pesos is left for actual programs and projects after mandatory expenses. This means fewer resources for health, education, labor, mobility, and social protection. We urge Congress to cut pork, waste, and abuse so that more funds can go to lifeline services. Second, major fiscal risks continue to threaten the budget. These include last-minute congressional insertions with minimal vetoes, ballooning pension obligations, the larger tax allotment to LGUs, and advances to government corporations. These risks translate into less money for ordinary families and weaker protection against crises. Third, underinvestment in our people. The 2026 budget plans to spend only half of globally recommended levels for education, health, and social protection and climate adaptation. This forces Filipino families to shoulder more of the burden for medicine, tuition, and welfare, leaving the poor even further behind in recovery. Fourth, the country's lifeline programs are under threat. Since 2022, hundreds of billions have gone to pork and patronage at the expense of health, education, and social protection. These cuts means skipped meals, children out of school, and medicines not bought. Congress has the power and responsibility to do better and safeguard these services.
Nasabi na po kanina, ang budget ay hindi po spreadsheet lamang. So these amounts are not just figures, they're actual people's lives. No? So we also, aside from addressing these issues, we do have recommendations on the budget process for better transparency, accountability, and genuine participation. So we call for an open budget. That means opening everything. Let's open the technical budget hearings. Let's open the DBCC hearings. Let's open the BICAM. Open the ayuda lists. Open infrastructure. In line with these, we have also more specific recommendations to the Appropriations Committee and the Task Force for People's Participation. First, we call on government to co-create an open budget transparency server with civil society and the media. This is inspired by how we have a system of reporting votes during the elections, real-time and live po siya. So in cooperation with media partners, an open budget transparency server will allow us to more closely monitor and report insertions and deletions in the budget. Second, we call on DBM and DPWH to upload a more transparent version of the Excel file of the National Expenditure Program for 2026 with specific project amounts in the Excel file as it is presented in the detailed annex na PDF version naman ngayon. We call on them to make a code book explaining the variables in the Excel files. We ask Congress to post a machine-readable format also of the detailed project annexes of the House GAB and the Senate GAB, as well as the BICAM conference committee reports, consistent with the NEP Excel sheets. Finally, we ask that CSO inputs are actually heard and considered, not merely acknowledged and set aside. So we welcome the positive developments that Chair Mika Swansing has announced earlier, primarily that the CSOs will be able to field field questions through the champions. And second, that we will have more regular huddles and briefings with them. No? But we also propose that we should have a transparent system where the CSO's inputs are filed, tracked, and actioned. And pangalawa, we also propose that aside from asking questions, the CSOs can be tapped as resource persons. We believe that we can contribute by way of technical inputs as well. Finally, to close, we do believe that meaningful dialogue will not always mean agreement, and that is the way that democracy works. What matters is that these exchanges are transparent, inclusive, and grounded in the shared goal of serving the Filipino people. With the committed leadership of the Appropriations Committee and Chair Mika Swansing that is being demonstrated here today, we are hopeful that this process can become more open, collaborative, and responsive. So maraming salamat po.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Eunice. So we're down to our last resource person. Again, for those who would want to still raise comments or statements, we hope that reserve those statements. We will still have an open forum session after this presentation. So may I call on our representative from the Democracy Watch Philippines, Mr. Lloyd Ian Zaragoza.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lloyd Zaragoza from Democracy Watch. So we firmly believe that the 2026 budget is our chance to shape the future we want for our people. It's time we have a truly responsive budget, one that ensures every Filipino family can eat, live healthy, and send their children to school. To do this, we must put our money where it matters most: agriculture, health, and education. Why these three? For agriculture, our farmers feed the nation but remain among the poorest. With stronger investments in irrigation and farm-to-market roads, every peso multiplies into food security and higher incomes for our farmers. For health, the pandemic exposed the cost of underinvesting in healthcare. Many provinces still rely on overcrowded hospitals. By building and upgrading hospitals and specialty centers, especially outside Metro Manila, we make quality healthcare accessible to all Filipinos. On education, our classrooms are overcrowded, and too many children in far-flung areas still walk hours just to reach school. By building more classrooms and last-mile schools, we reduce dropouts and give every child a fair chance at success. We recognize resources are limited, but a choice must be made. Do we continue pouring billions into controversial allocations like unplanned and poorly implemented flood control projects? Or do we invest in the very foundations of a strong nation: food, health, and education? My dear friends, let us continue to champion a people-first realignment into the 2026 budget. Let us fund what truly matters and leave a legacy of investing not just in projects, but in the Filipino people. Thank you.
Okay, so we will have one more. We will have one more. Mr. Robert C. to present the last statement for the CSOs. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. Honorable Mika Swansing, Chair of the Committee on Appropriations, Honorable Albert Garcia, Senior Vice Chair of the Committee on Appropriations, Honorable Jude Asidre, Champion for Civil Society Participation in the Budget, fellow advocates in civil society, ladies and gentlemen. The Move as One Coalition is a broad organization of 77,000 individuals and 140 organizations concerned about our mobility environment and has a strong interest in enhancing the safety, convenience, and quality of our transportation services, particularly public transportation and infrastructure for walking and cycling. Dapat lahat na ito ligtas, makatao at para sa lahat. For many years now, Move as One has been closely following the budget process. And for every budget, we routinely prepare analysis, position papers, and interpellation questions. We will be providing all of this to the Committee on Appropriations and to other interested representatives, and hopefully you can help to champion our advocacies. If I can summarize our key points, first, on the transportation budget, both for public transportation and for road and bridge infrastructure, these are in serious need of revision. So, what are our key points? We need roads and bridges. Of course, we need roads and bridges, but our roads and bridges need to serve the majority. And we have to remind ourselves, the majority are not people in cars. Okay, today, a very important statistic is that only 6% of Filipino households are owners of four-wheeled motor vehicles. So today, if we build our roads and bridges primarily to serve car users, we're only serving already the most wealthy and the most privileged. So we still need roads and bridges, but the bridges and roads need to be prioritized for those who are not in cars, people who are walking, people who are using bicycles, people who are using public transport. We are all pedestrians, right? All of us are here are pedestrians. And yet in the 2026 NEP, the budget for walking and cycling infrastructure is only 69 million. What is 69 million for a nation that needs, walking and cycling infrastructure everywhere? So, we all already notice and experience almost everywhere our sidewalks are practically missing or atrociously substandard. And if we are looking for infrastructure that is inclusive, that can be built in every locality, that can be monitored by every neighborhood, it's really the walking and cycling infrastructure. So actually, having more of that incorporated in our budget would be most meaningful. The second point is the budget for public transportation is heavily skewed towards railways, with minimal amounts left for road-based public transportation. Our public transportation budget requires what we call better balance. Better balance. As public transport advocates, we support railway development. But when 98% of the public transportation budget goes into railways, and we know railways take a long time and are also geographically focused, it means that the rest of the country will remain hungry for better public transport for a long time. We cannot place all our eggs in the rail basket. Part of it, yes, but not all of the eggs in the rail basket. Road-based public transport moves close to 98% of all our commuters. We need to spend more on a real just transition for all of those in our road-based public transport sector. People in the bus industry, the jeepney industry, PhilCab, UV Express industry, we need to give them better vehicles, capacity building, and of course, a more effective business model. So today, we'd like to thank everyone here, and of course the representatives who are championing the roles of civil society. Today we need meaningful, substantial, and permanent involvement of civil society in our budget process. And I think all of us would agree here, it cannot be interim, it cannot be optional. We need to make it permanent, and hopefully with legislation, we can make this role permanent and meaningful for all of us in civil society. Thank you very much po.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to all those CSOs who gave their statements and positions. So before we proceed on the next part of the program, which is the open forum, I think so may I call our Chair Mika and SVC Albert Garcia and Kong Jude Asidre to make their comments and remarks to the statements presented by our partner CSOs.
Ayan. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your presentations. Again, as I mentioned, this is the first. This is going to be the first of many engagements. This is only one of the many channels which we intend to open during the budget deliberations. Tulad po na sinabi namin, gusto po namin mas maging bukas ang proseso ng budget, mas maging malakas ang boses ng ating mga kababayan. At alam po namin na kayo po yung magiging boses ng ating mga kababayan. Siyempre, bukod po sa mga representante natin sa Kongreso. So siguro a few points that I picked up from the presentations. I've been taking notes po, as you can see. Meron na ako siguro gusto na ibahagi. We are one with you in wanting to prioritize funding for human capital development. And several of the points that were raised, syempre po, una, pagdating sa edukasyon, pagdating sa classrooms, pagdating sa facilities, sa textbooks, especially for marginalized learners. So we're with you on that. Ito po yung budget na sinasabi nga po bilang sinabi po yun ni Secretary Amena Pangandaman noong tinurn over po yung NEP na ito po yung biggest budget for education. We're very, very close. 3.96% of the GDP. So we're close to the 4% as constitutionally mandated. Pero alam namin na meron pa rin mga areas na kailangan pa po natin pagtuunan ng pansin. So titignan po natin yon. We're with you and the President is with us also in the call to bridge the gap in classroom shortage. Marami po mga classrooms na pangangailangan sa buong bansa at nandito po kami, kasama niyo po kami doon na talaga pong susubukan natin na mas maparami yung kasalukuyan nandoon sa Basic Education Fund, yung BEF. Alam natin na binanggit nyo po yun na yung kasalukuyang level ay hindi sapat para mapagawa yung mga kakulangan sa classroom. So kasama nyo po kami, susubukan po natin itaas yung level ng BEF. Pagdating po sa agrikultura, syempre po yung ating funding para sa mga farm-to-market roads, para sa irigasyon, ang pagdating po sa mga pangangailangan ng mga magsasaka, mga makinarya, mga farm inputs, kasama nyo din po kami dyan. Kaya talaga po susuriin natin yung budget ng DA at ng NIA at titignan po natin kung saan po tayo pwede magtaas pa para mas maging malakas yung suporta ng gobyerno sa agrikultura. Pagdating po sa health, Renace din po kanina yan, in terms of health programs, again, we're with you on that. Kulang pa yung ating health facilities, support to indigent, support to financially challenged, financially incapacitated patient. So, susubukan din po natin na ma-address yan. Bilang nga po, binanggit po ng ating Pangulo sa kanyang SONA na ang goal po ay sa government hospitals, mag-zero balance billing na. So, susubukan po natin na mas mapataas pa yung pondo sa health para po mas maging posible yon na makatulong po tayo sa ating mga kababayan na nangangailangan. I also heard the advocacies around transportation in terms of funding for POV modernization, walking and cycling infrastructure increase, planning for better mobility. So titignan din po natin yan when we look at the budget of DOTR. Titignan po natin yan, DOTR and DPWH both. Nagbanggit din po yung climate initiatives. So yun po, ako po personally, like I would need more guidance on that matter, kung ano yung specific programs or areas that need more funding para po ma-advocate yung climate initiatives. Social welfare programs were also mentioned. Siyempre po, yung mga tulong natin, human capital development nga. So nandyan po yung tulong sa labor, sa education, health, holistic po. So we will make sure po that we prioritize funding for human capital development and social welfare programs. So, yun po, narinig po namin yung mga binanggit ninyo, pero naiintindihan po namin na given the limited time, we were not able to go into specific programs, specific line items that we are looking at. So, ang request po siguro namin on the part of the Committee on Appropriations and the House Task Force is if you may also provide us greater detail. So, which specific line items, which specific programs. May mga nabanggit po kanina, nag-decrease sa SPeG, nag-decrease sa ALS, nag-decrease sa IPED. So kung pwede po na, or sa textbook, so those specific line items sa walking and cycling infrastructure that was mentioned as well. So it would be very helpful for us, given na libo-libo po yung pages ng ating GAB, that if you can help pinpoint which specific programs you would like us to look into more. So that would be very much appreciated. Binanggit nga po namin kanina in terms of technical expertise. Marami po sa ating mga CSO partners, you've been studying this particular sector, this particular area for many years. So iba po ilang dekada pa. So we would greatly appreciate your inputs, your technical inputs in terms of particular sectors, in terms of particular programs, and we'll be very much open to collaborating with you on that. Yung pagbanggit po sa bukas, yun po yung ating ginawa. Sinimulan na po natin yan. Bukas po yung DBCC hearing natin una, lahat po na ating mga budget hearings. Bukas din, pati yung deliberasyon ng BARC, yun po yung Budget Amendments Review Subcommittee, magiging bukas din. We're also partnering with the Senate. Siyempre po bicameral po yung desisyon natin pagdating dyan. Yung pagbubukas po ng Bicameral Conference Committee o yung BICAM, yan po ay suportado din po natin. At syempre po ng liderato ng Kongreso na pinamumunuan po ng ating mahal na Speaker Martin Romualdez. So we're with you on that. That's one of the reforms that we're pushing for. Yung open BICAM, yung stronger engagement sa mga civil society organizations, at pati po yung pag-abolish dun sa tinatawag na small committee, at yung pagpasok po nung tinatawag natin na Budget Amendments Review Subcommittee na tumatakbo sa kabaan ng deliberasyon, at mas bukas na yung deliberasyon patungkol po sa mga amyenda na ating pong ikokonsidera para po sa ating budget. So yun po siguro, given that medyo high level po yung discussion natin and there's limited time, we would really appreciate it if you may please share more technical details of your proposals, which particular programs, agencies, line items you would like us to look at and scrutinize even more. So we would super appreciate that. A lot of you also offered na in terms of interpellation questions, you would also be very much happy to engage with us on that. So tulad po ng binanggit ko at binanggit ni Kong Jude, we will make sure there are champions for civil society organizations who can speak during committee hearings. So nandyan po yung ating mga vice chair ng Committee on Appropriations. They can ask your questions to the agencies. And as Kong Jude offered, of course, the authors of HR House Resolution 94 would also serve as champions. Kung bukod po doon, if you would also know other representatives who are champions or advocates of particular sectors, please feel free to approach them. Kasi very active naman po yung partisipasyon ng lahat ng mga miyembro ng Kamara pagdating po sa ating budget deliberations. Certain things lang that we would have to understand, yung machine-readable format, we've admitted to several of you na that may be part of our medyo technologically challenged kami dito. So if you may please share with the task force kanila, Doc Meral, what exactly you mean by machine readable? Kasi machine searchable lang po yung alam namin as a PDF format. But please enlighten us as to what that is, and we'll check whether it would be feasible or technically possible or practicable for the committee to adopt the suggestion for a machine readable format. Hindi pa po ako makapag-comment kasi hindi ko alam what it is exactly, but once you share with us, we can check the feasibility of implementing that. So yun po, I do have a lot of notes from all of your presentations, and we'll have more collaborations. As we said, kung every week po, kaya natin. Pero pakisabihan lang po yung task force natin kung anong ahensya po ng gobyerno, anong departamento yung gusto nyo pong talakayin para po ma-request ko po yung vice chairperson namin sa appropriations na sponsor po nung agency na yon na maging kasama po ninyo doon po sa mga meetings natin, weekly touch points, weekly engagements po natin. So, yun lang po. Gusto ko po sana, I would like to recognize the presence of our Vice Chairperson from the Committee on Appropriations who will be sponsoring the budget of the Department of Transportation. So, marami po tayo ditong advocates for transportation. So, Vice Chair Edwin Ongsuan will be your champion for transportation. Then po, sakto po. We have several of our partners here po. Safe Travel PH, Move as One. They're advocates po for transportation. So, yun po, maganda po na pwede nyo na po makausap si Vice Chair Ongsuan kasi siya po yung pwede ninyo maging champion during the hearings of DOTR. So, yun po. Would you still like po to do an open forum or that's it for today po, and then we can further engage in the coming weeks? Ano po ba yung mas okay sa lahat? We're okay? We're okay for today? Okay? Sige po, basta if there's anything lang po, again, this is the first of many engagements. Thank you so much for all of your inputs for today, and we look forward to receiving your position papers, your, as I said, completed staff work of all the technical inputs that you would share with the committee, your interpellation questions that can be championed by the vice chairs of the Committee on Appropriations. And yun po, we look forward, and we will make sure that this budget is people-centered and will be very much responsive to the needs of the Filipino people. Maraming salamat. If we may request po for a group photo with everyone. Doc June, pakisabi na lang po if they have any more questions, please feel free to let us know lang po. Okay. We'd also like to recognize for agriculture, our sponsor for the Department of Agriculture, Vice Chair Anna York Bondoc, is also here with us. So they will be championing the OTR and DA for the budget deliberations. Okay, so maybe request po for a photo. Okay lang po ba? Okay. May we request all of our partners po, please join us on stage. Let's take a photo po. This is a milestone for all of us.